Lily. Lily. Oh, grab this. All right. So again, the idea of complementary. First and foremost, complementary angles can only be two if we're going to identify what angles are complements to each other. And then we should definitely know that they need to add up to be 90 degrees. I gave you that straight little question. We're recording this, Holmes, because we want to test on Friday, so I don't want to lose a day. So made the decision. So two angles that add up to be 90 degrees. So if you look at letter A here, these three angles in here, if I ask you to identify a pair of complementary angles, you're just identifying the angles that add up to be 90 degrees, and it can only be two of those. So as we look at these guys right here, if you look at angle A and you look at angle C, when we add these two guys up, the 40 degrees and the 50 degrees, their sum is 90 degrees. So we would say angle A and angle C in regards to the angles that are complements of each other. All right. Now, what you're going to see a lot of here over the next 2 days as we kind of go into this are little diagrams like this idea that the square means 90 degrees. But what we have is this ray that is dividing those into two separate angles. So the two angles who add up to be 90 degrees, this 90-degree angle is a combination of angle 3 and angle 4 right here. So in terms of what's complementary angles, it would just be angle 3 and angle 4. All right. And then letter C, you're just looking again for two angles that would add up to be 90 degrees. Now that I give you degree measures, so you are given 55, 35. If we add those up, those are our 90-degree angles. So that is angle M and angle Q. So again, nothing really new there. Just making sure we're aware of this before we start adding some layers to this here today and tomorrow. Same with supplementary angles. Supplementary angles are also two angles, except they're going to be adding up to be 180 degrees. Okay, so similar type of questions here. If I ask you to identify a pair of supplementary angles, you're looking for the two angles who add up to be 180 degrees. So as we look at these guys here, the 120 and the 60, if those were to get added up, those are going to add up to be 180. So that would be angle E and angle G as our supplementary angles. All right. B, this goes supplementary, a lot of overlap with the ideas we've already talked about, linear pairs, how a straight line is always a 180-degree angle. So if we have this ray that's splitting up that 180-degree angle, it creates these two angles, angle 4 and then angle 5. Those two angles there make this full straight line along the bottom here. So those would have to be supplementary angles. Those add up to be 180. So if we have numbers, we're just subtracting from 180. When they're equations, eventually when we deal with the algebra, you're adding them up, setting them equal to 180. All right. Okay, last one. Letter C. Go ahead and do that one. Just looking for the angles that are supplementary to each other. Okay, Julia, what'd you put? Caught Julia taking a drink of water. Sorry, I didn't really look up.
Can it be like GH and
Good. So there's a few complementary. So the first one or supplementary. She said G and H, so angle G and angle H, because if we added 180 degrees, those obviously then have to be 180 degrees. But she also identified or recognized that there's another set, like angle J and angle K. If we did 110 plus a 70, those also add up to be 180. So angle J and angle K, you would say, are supplementary as well. So we have a couple of them in this case. All right. All right. So again, quick little refresh. Those should be things that we are squared away on. A little trickier here In this one, you're given this example to work with. So a lot of lines, rays, all intersecting at this point right here. Just understanding our definitions here. Number one, we want to identify, just like we did in the previous set of problems, the complementary angles here. See what you think. So look at that diagram, a little more involved now. If we look at this diagram over here, can we find two angles when added together would create a 90-degree angle? All right, whatever we would say, that's what we're putting on that line right there. Okay, so that'd give me about 15 seconds and you're the guy. All right, what do you got, Assad? Good. Angle 2 and angle 3. This is the key. Understanding this square means that this overall angle from here to here is a 90-degree angle, the one that I have highlighted in blue. That blue angle is a combination of 2 and 3 together. So angle 2 and angle 3 are complementary angles. All right. All right, supplementary angles. Do that now because we just did a bunch of them right before this. Probably thought it was really, really easy. Now that it's a little more complicated of a graph, right now, two angles who would add up to be 180 degrees. And again, it has to be only two angles. All right, and this one's a little sneaky. Let's see what we get here. All right, confident in this one, Assad?
I think it'd be two answers.
Good. So there should be two answers first. So if you don't have two answers, hopefully Assad is good, but then kind of check if you have both. What's one of the sets, Assad?
1, 2, 3.
Ooh.
Oh, I mean 1, 3.
All right, so let me just say why 1, 2, and 3, because this is one of the things we want to talk about. See how it says the two angles only? So what Assad did, I'm pretty sure, he saw that we had this straight line right here, and if we use all three of these lines, angle 1, angle 2, and angle 3, yeah, all three of these have to add up to be 180, so that's 100% true. But to be supplementary, we only want a pair. Okay, so that's the only reason we would include all three of them. All right, what were you going to say next then, Assad?
5 and 4.
Good. Similar to this line right here, instead of doing the angle up top that's 180, the bottom of that line must also be 180. So angle 4 and angle 5 together make this straight line. So angle 4 and angle 5. Now, whether he knew it or not, because I think he thought this was one, there is another set. Armando, what's the other set? What do you think? Good. Because don't we have a straight line right here? So if I highlight this line right here in red, this must be a 180-degree angle right here as well. And that is a combination of angle 3 right here and angle 4 right here. So angle 3 and 4 are also supplementary. All right. So we would say angle 3 and angle 4 supplements. Now, similar to kind of what Assad said here, this is 180 over here. So this must also be a 180-degree angle, but it's comprised of three angles, and that's why we wouldn't consider them supplementary. Okay. Okay, vertical angles. See if you remember what those meant. This we quizzed on last week. All right, what are vertical angles? It's a little sneaky. As a hint, there's only one set of vertical angles here. Because it's easy to think there's more than one in this case. All right, anybody think they have these? This to me is the sneakiest. Armando, what do you think? Good. The only set of vertical angles are angle 3 and angle 5. So vertical angles are across from each other. They're opposite of each other. You have a lot of angles that are opposite or across from each other here. the other thing that needs to be true, those angles need to be created by the exact same lines. So angle 3 and angle 4 are across from each other, and they are both created by this blue line and the yellow line. So that's why 3 and 4 are your only vertical angles. Let me kind of show you what you want to be somewhat careful of, because you may say, like, yeah, angle 1 isn't angle 1 across from angle 4. Those are across from each other. That is a true statement. So in terms of why angle 1 and angle 4 are not vertical, angle 1 is created by these two lines. Angle 4 is created by these two lines. Are those blue lines both created by the same two things? No, and that has to be the case with vertical angles. They can't just be across from each other. They have to have the same degree measure because they're created by the same exact lines. Okay? Okay, adjacent. This one we haven't talked too much about. I think we defined it in the first day or two. Adjacent basically means next to, one more T, next to each other. So whoever you're sitting by right now in your desk, you're adjacent to them. You have adjacent people on the left, you have an adjacent person on the right, most of you have an adjacent person in front, behind, anybody who's right next to you. So if I ask for an adjacent angle, you're gonna have a lot of these. So let's kind of get started, and then you can fill in some more. So I'm gonna start with just angle 1. So if I look at angle 1, and again, kind of keep in mind, you have somebody to your left, you have somebody to your right. So isn't angle 1 right here? Isn't angle 1 right next to angle 2? So we could say that angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent angles. I'm going to put a comma because we're going to have a bunch of these. Then I'm going to use angle 1 again. So if I go to angle 1, what other angle is angle 1 right next to? 5. So angle 1 and angle 5 would also be considered adjacent angles. All right. So now I'm going to go in this direction. So now I'm going to use 5. So in the next one, just so we kind of keep these all the same, write down angle 5 is also adjacent to, and then write down the other angle that angle 5 is adjacent to. So we already did 1, so don't just write 1 again. All right, and Jake, what other angle is angle 5 right next to? Good, angle 4. So angle 4 and angle 5 are adjacent. And then we're going to continue in that direction. We just did angle 4 and 5. However, angle 4, Jada, is also right next to what angle? Good, angle 3. And I think we just have one left. We kind of go in the counterclockwise direction. Angle 3, we already said is next to 4. Joe M, angle 3 is also right next to what angle? Good, angle 2. And then we've already done 2 to 1. That was our first one. So then that's all of our adjacent angles. Okay, doesn't matter what they add up to be. You're just right next to them. All right, last one. Do number 5. Do number 5. All right, Assad, this should be really, really nice, Assad, because it should be the same as what?
1 and 3. So and 4.
I like some of that. So I like the 5 and 4 angle, angle 5 and angle 4, because angle 5 right here and angle 4 right here make this straight line. So angle 5, angle 4, they're a pair of angles that together make a straight line. So that's the whole idea of a linear pair.
Angle 4 and angle 3.
Good. Shouldn't this just be a reproduction of answer number 2? Supplementary angles are basically linear pairs. They're two angles that add up to give you 180. That means they have to be a straight line. So he already gave me the 4 and the 5. And then now 3 and 4 should also be linear pairs. All right. All right. Next page. Last little theorem here, and then we'll just go through a bunch of these problems. This should be pretty obvious to you. All right angles are congruent. That's because that is implied all right angles are 90 degrees, and congruency just means they have the same degree measure, so that's pretty obvious. This also, if you kind of think it through, if two angles are congruent and supplementary, so that means these two angles better add up to be 180, and they're also congruent, doesn't that mean they both have to be 90 degrees? So that they're congruent, they both add up to be 180. So if we ever have that, then that would guarantee that each of those is a right angle. Okay. All right, real quick, I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes. Answer 1 through 5. See if we can now dissect this graph, understand what all these angles mean, understand what this vocabulary means, and do 1 through 5. Yeah, some of these will have multiple answers. Sally, long driving. Did you drive back to Yeah, long commute today. All right, let's see where we're at with all of these. Not really any work. It's just understanding the graph. There's a lot of angles going on here. We want to understand how graphs or angles are named, so we're dealing with the right, correct angle. The first one is supplementary to AOD. So here is A to O to D. So we are now looking for an angle that, if we put together with that blue angle, would create basically a straight line. All right. Supplementary angles are linear pair. They create straight lines. So I saw there's 2 answers here. Hopefully you got one of the 2. Some people started to get this. What do we think? Anybody confident in one of these? Armando?
Angle COD.
Good. So he said angle COD. So if I go C to O to D, wouldn't that have given me this big blue angle that I had initially? And then now we have this angle here that would create this straight line right here. All right, so angle COD is one of our answers, or DOC if you wrote the D first and then the O and then the C. All right, so that's one of them. Notice what we really just did, what Armando did with his. He extended, let me do a different color here. He extended this AOC line. He extended that line to create this, to find this angle to make the straight line right here. Well, couldn't we have also now have extended this line so that when I put these two together, I now have this full straight line. All right, so Mo, what is that angle now that we need to add in there? So what angle are we looking at now?
BOA.
Good. BOA. Because BOA is right here, together with the big blue one, would now create this full straight line. All right. So both sets of those would be supplementary to AOD. All right. All right. 2. So a few more answers for this one. We want to be adjacent and congruent to AOE. So here is A, here is O, here is E. So we want the angle. It's getting a little bright here, the glare. What angle is right next to AOE, but also congruent to AOE? All right, you got that, Assad?
COE.
Good. COE, because this is a 90-degree angle. This here, by doing COE, this is another 90-degree angle. So we would say angle COE. Good. All right, 3, supplementary to EOA. So E to O to A. So here is E, here is O, here is A. This should be very nice. What do we think? Supplementary to E, O, A. Armando?
EOC.
Good. Isn't it the same one we just did? All right. So you can EOS. I think Assad said COE. Armando called it EOC. Either one of those is okay. All right, but that's the one that's supplementary to EOA because it creates this straight line. So I think he said EOC. All right. All right, B or 4, complementary to EOD. So here is E, here is O, here is D. Complementary means we want it to be a 90-degree angle. So the only way I can create a 90-degree angle out of this is by doing this angle right here. So from red to red, that's our 90-degree angle. We have 60 degrees of it right here. So we want the angle that would finish that nice 90-degree angle. All right. So Monica, what angle would finish this red 90-degree angle here? Good. She went D, O, C. COD would also be fine as long as that O is in the middle. All right. Then a pair of vertical angles. A pair of vertical angles. As a hint, there are 2 of these. The first one I would hope we could get. Second one is sneaky. I'll actually give everybody an extra credit point on the test Friday if we can come up with the sneaky one. All right. Joe, you got one of them? What do you think is one of them, Joe? What is it? Oh, that's even sneaky. That's like so sneaky. So let me see. So you said BOD? So he's saying that this angle here, that's like too sneaky there. So BOD isn't this 180, and then opposite of that would also be 180. Is that your thought process? I would take that, sort of. It's technically when two lines meet and we create those 4 angles that we create those vertical angles of. Okay, but good idea. They're opposite of each other. They're each the same amount. That's pretty clever, Joe, especially for a snowy Monday morning. So good. It's good. All right. There's still 2 other ones, though. Monica, you got one for me? All right. Say that one more time now. Good. And that is the sneaky one. So there you go. Thanks, Monica. So she said B, O, C. So that's this angle right here, BOC. And then the angle opposite of that, let me extend these lines because it has to be created by the two lines. So this is the angle she named, and then I'm going to extend this line in this direction. I'm going to extend this yellow line in this direction. So you had to kind of see through this guy getting cut by that ray here from O to E. But this yellow line here, this angle, is opposite of this blue angle. So those guys are supplement or vertical to each other. Now that to me, that's a tricky one. There is a nicer one. All right, but that's good. What was it? How'd you name it, Monica? What did you use first, the A or the D? What did you call this one? AOD? Okay. All right. Either way, AOD or DOA, that's good. That's the one that I think is tricky. All right. There was one that I think is hopefully a little more obvious. Aside, you got the other one that's a nice one.
BOA and
BOA. So he said BOA and then COD. Good. Because this is a continuous line here, the blue and the yellow, the blue and the yellow. So now this angle here is directly across from this angle here. So he said BOA. All right, and angle COD. All right. All right, good. All right, these should be really quick and easy. Ultimately, what we want to get down to is this X one, so we can kind of understand what this is implying. So complementary means they need to add up to be 90 degrees. All right, so basically in this case, you're going to do 90 minus 20. This better be a 70-degree angle. All right, I gave you one of these on the quiz. Supplementary angle, these have to add up to be 180. So 180 minus 20, 160. All right, so that's all we're going to do for those first handful. So the next one, 90 minus 45 would give you 45. If I want to supplement, since it has to be 180, you would have done 180 minus 45, so 135. My pen's acting weird all of a sudden. Next one, 90 minus 89. Its complement has to just be 1 degrees. And then the supplement would be 91 degrees. All right, real quick, do the last one. How would we get it if it's now variables? All right, this row right here. Anybody feeling clever? How can we define that, Assad?
90 minus
Good. The way we got this 70, we took 90 and we subtracted this angle. Here we did 90 minus whatever angle I gave you. Here we did 90 minus whatever angle I gave you. It's no different here. You're going to take the 90 and subtract the angle that you were given, and whatever remains has to be the complement. So it's simply 90 minus x. For the supplement, you did 180 and you would have subtracted the 20 degrees that I gave you. That's where the 60 comes from. Here we would have done 180 minus 45. That's where this came from. This would have been 180 minus 89. That's where the 91 came from. So this one, Assad, has to be what?
180 minus
Good. 180 minus whatever angle I give you. That's how you can always define the complement, or the supplement in this case. The 90 is the complement. Okay? All right, then real quick, definitely want to be able to do these for tonight. Little word problem. It tells you that angle ABC is complementary to angle DEF. So what that simply means is angle ABC, when we add it to angle DEF, better add up to be 90 degrees. That's what that first sentence is telling you. Then I tell you what angle ABC is. Angle ABC is 2x plus 2. So instead of writing angle ABC, that really is 2x plus 2. So I'm going to put that right there. And I tell you angle DEF is 3x plus 7. So then we're going to insert that into this location. And when we add those up, those have to equal 90 degrees. So very much like what we've been doing, you now have this equation that you're going to solve. You're going to add those like terms. We have 5x's and a negative 5 on the left-hand side. You will add 5 to both sides. Then you will divide. That is what? 145. 19? I think it's 19. Definitely 19. All right, so then answer the question. You're going to solve for x. We have that taken care of. The next thing, though, we need is the measure of angle ABC. So I'm just getting that from right here. Measure of angle ABC was 2x plus 2. And now we know what our x is. It's a 19. So we throw that in there. Evaluate that. That's 38 plus 2. So that's a 40-degree angle. So that's one of ours. The next one we do not need to plug in, correct? What do we know right away? The measure of angle DEF would then have to equal without having to do all substitution, Armando. Good, because they have to add up to be 90. So once I know one of them is 40, the other has to be 90. All right. Next one, pretty much the same thing. We probably won't go all the way through this, so I can give you the homework. But I'm telling you that angle 1 is supplementary to angle 3. So now angle 1 plus angle 3 better add up to be 180. That's what that's telling you in the first sentence. And then you are told that angle 1 is 5x plus a 1. So we're going to take that 5x plus 1 expression. You're going to add that to angle 3. Angle 3 is 7x plus 14. So when we add angle 1 and angle 2 together, since they are supplementary, we know they better equal 180. From there, no different than what we've been doing. You're going to solve that equation for x. Once you know what x is, you're going to plug it in, figure out what your angles are. Okay? All right. You do have homework on this. I think we can do this. I'm going to keep the quizzes, actually. You don't have homework tomorrow night, so I'm going to give you this for tomorrow. Then you don't have double things to worry about. And then if you wanted to do corrections on the quiz, you would do those tomorrow night, since I'm not going to have any homework for you to do tomorrow night. So we'll keep those and give those back to you tomorrow. This, though, I do want for tomorrow. Yep, let me do that now.